Star Wars Rebels Season 3, Episode 19, Double Agent Droid. Really enjoyed this one. Definitely a funny episode for sure. It starts off, surprising to me at least. I'm like, alright, we have AP5, we have Chopper, and we find out that Wedge Antilles is the guy leading these two droids on their mission. I was like, wow, this is, kind of like a side character sort of episode. And I thought that was cool. Like, we get to see, a fairly well-known Star Wars character with Wedge. And we get AP5. I love AP5. Just his sarcasm is always really funny to me. And then him and Chopper, they do nothing but argue and hate each other. And it's just fun to watch, if I'm being totally honest. Even if we can't understand Chopper, the monotone style of AP5 is just really funny. So I was already excited for this episode, even as like a bit of a filler episode. I was just like, this is going to be a funny episode. And there's even more to it than I expected, because I thought the whole thing was going to be, the three of them, and then that was like really like the first half of the episode. So we have them go on their mission. AP5 ends up going through the whole thing because he and Chopper argue and everything. Chopper ends up being taken over by those dudes. Every time I see anyone in Star Wars with that, all I think of is the guy, of course, from Cloud City. I don't know that guy's name, but I see that little thing. It always makes me wonder too, like, are those people like part droid, or are they like the androids of Star Wars, or what? Because in the movie, every time I saw that in Empire Strikes Back, the guy had his eyes closed, and then Lando like pushes a button on his watch, and then the guy's like, and he wakes up, and I was like, so is he a robot? Is he not a robot? I always wondered that. I never looked it up though. But I liked them in this because they were really creepy. Like, they had that villain monotone. Like, AP5 is just like, I hate this and I hate that, but they were like super creepy, and it's like, perfect, do this now and do that. And their plan was going well, and I kind of enjoyed that. I was like, they're very creepy, and they felt like a hive mind. That's kind of what I enjoyed about this. It was like they're all monotone, and they're working perfectly as a machine. And I was like, it's almost like they're, a hive mind. And I thought that was just really cool to watch that. And they go through the episode, and they have control over Chopper. AP does his mission, which, it was really funny. He was like making fun of Chopper, but he was right. He was like, I could have done this mission myself, and I'm like, he was not wrong. Like, he went in, and that was it. Like, he walked in, and he could have walked right back out, and I was like, that actually would have been the whole mission. Like, that would have been it if Chopper, really wasn't there, because for whatever reason, the thing was delayed, but it still went off, and I thought that was interesting. But, he gets taken over, so they head back to the ship. They think everything's fine, and AP realizes, like, all right, at first it was kind of simple. It was like, it was just weird. You apologize and you're being nice. And then he kept being nice. It's like, alright, something's really weird here. But of course, Wedge just assumes AP is being paranoid. It's like, alright, you guys just, constantly going back and forth. It's kind of the normal TV thing where it's like, you're being really weird. But because you're such an a-hole all the time, I kind of ignore it because you're being super nice to me. And, he gives him something to drink, which I thought was going to be like, I didn't think it would be poison, but I thought for sure he was going to take a sip, and it would be like, all right, I'm going to go do this. Especially when he was like, I'm going to go to the refresher, as they call it. I was like, he's going to pass out, and AP5 is going to be like, man, it's taking him a long time to come back. What happened? And I thought for sure it was going to be like he put something in the drink, because I thought it was suspicious. I was like, okay, for no real reason, it was like, all right, let's just have Chopper, give Wedge this drink. And I was like, they had to have put something in there, right? I figured something could have been on the ship. He had a drink on the ship, so I was like, there had to be something there that could have knocked him out. So I was honestly surprised that they didn't like spike the drink and knock Wedge out to try to, kind of get rid of, that contingency, or get rid of the, that issue in general. And that kind of was their contingency plan. Like, all right, let's knock him out. We'll just, zap AP5 a bunch and, power him down. But didn't end up being the case. It was all mental. It was like, okay, AP5 basically, discredited himself. So everything kind of goes along. They get back to the rest of the team, and it's the same. It's like, all right, Chopper, you're being a little weird, but everything's fine. We get to the hyperdrive point, and then everyone got, it was a good point. AP5 had a great point. It was like, do we all need to go? And it was a really good point. But of course, they get trapped in the cargo hold. Controlled Chopper is about to actually get all the information he put in that super slow thing. It was very, very TV-like. It was like that timer that's inexplicably super long. That thing was moving so slow, but it made sense in this point because it's like, hyperspace and coordinates among, across galaxies, weird stuff like that. So I was like, this is the one time I can be like, all right, they might have spaceships and stuff, but that doesn't mean, especially from the distance they were at, it doesn't necessarily mean that the data transfer is like, you know, terabytes and petabytes in like half a second, that sort of thing. So I was like, I can still actually see this being logical, but it was just so slow. It was funny to me. Like, he put the thing in, and especially seeing droids do it all the time, and it's just like boom, boom, boom. They found out what they needed, and he put it right into the console. I was like, oh, it has to like do the math and the equations and this and that. And I was just like, man, that took way longer because I'm always used to them just being like, boop, 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 got it, and they move on. So it was kind of funny watching it slowly twist and little compartments, close in together as the team tries to figure out how in the world do we escape. Which leads me to my biggest problem with this entire episode. Where in the world was Ezra's lightsaber? Like, did he leave it with Sabine or something? Because I was super confused. When they got locked in, I was like, okay, they know something's wrong. That's not that big of a deal. I figured, the cargo hold thing, I knew that was going to happen where it opens up. I just assumed that'll happen, as like kind of last resort. They'll do that as Ezra was trying to like, chop through the gates. And be like, oh crap, he's getting through. Let me hit this button and try to suck them all into space. That doesn't end up happening because for whatever reason, Ezra just doesn't have his lightsaber on him. And I was so mad about that. I was just like, this makes no sense whatsoever. I don't know if I missed it. And there was a shot where it's like clearly sitting on the table and they left it behind. If, they're playing, they're basically, playing the chess game. But I was just like, where the F is his lightsaber? Because as soon as it closed, I was like, they're fine. Boom, boom, he chops through it. They, use the force and just push it up so it doesn't fall down on him. They escape. Like, he can literally super jump and then just pull people up using the force. No big deal. Or not even do that. Just chop it open and then push the button. And that way they don't have to even climb through it. It's all the way open. And I was just like, that made no sense to me. He had like, it looked like he had a holster for a gun too. And I was like, that's really weird. He doesn't have a blaster on him. Which he does, he uses a blaster all the time. He always ends up finding one during a fight. But it was like he had a holster for a blaster, but he didn't have his lightsaber. And I was just like, what is going on? Like, it made no sense to me. So that's like the big thing. If you guys have an explanation for that, I would love to know like what it is that I'm missing from like maybe a past episode where it makes sense that he didn't have it this time. But I just can't think of anything. There was nothing that I can recall. I would have remembered if it was like, holy crap, he has to, get a new lightsaber or somebody stole it. So I was just blown away. I was just like, this makes no sense. Where is his lightsaber? So that was like my one issue with the whole episode, is that just logically was illogical. It made no sense to me. I was like, he doesn't have his lightsaber. Why? So unless it was just sitting there on the table and I missed it, it was supposed to be like out in the open, but I wasn't paying attention to the, the background. I was looking at the characters. Then it's explained. It's in there. It's just like he just left it. No big deal. Chopper's being weird. Nothing's going on. I get it. But like I'm saying, I'm just saying that in case that was there, I totally missed it. But if it's not, then they just totally had a weird thing. Like he just didn't have his lightsaber for no reason. But they of course end up having the segment where the cargo hold opens up. Everyone ends up surviving. Hera has to go through pushing a button, flipping up the console, hitting another button to pull the lever out, and then pulling the lever to actually close the door. And I was like, that is so complicated. It was hilarious. But they go through that process. They end up putting AP5 on the outside of the ship, which they don't explain because they were in the cargo hold, so I would love to know how that worked out. Unless they open the bottom, because that's where the ships, like smaller cargo ships, come in. So if they had the shield, that would make a lot of sense, because I thought we'd see that too, but that's just what I'm going to go with. They opened up the bottom, and that's where the shield was, so that obviously oxygen didn't get sucked out of the bottom. So I'm assuming that's how he gets out, and of course he goes around the ship. They end up seeing him, so they send, they control Chopper and send him out to kind of fight with them. And he's able to let everybody escape. They stop Chopper. They, destroy the little, well, they don't destroy it, but they like take it out. And Hera gets super pissed, and I loved it. And so that's when it got interesting, because there were two things kind of back to back for the very end of this episode that I really loved. So the first part was Hera was really mad. They messed with Chopper. She rebuilt Chopper after just a really crazy moment, in her life. And it was a big deal to her. So it was like, they messed with my droid, and there was, that little moment of tension where he might, not power back up, which there was really no tension, because all I thought was, he's fine, he's in Rogue One. So, it was just like, alright, he'll be fine. And of course that happens, and she was pissed. And when she sends back kind of the excess power, I was like, alright. She's like, say goodbye to your power core. Like, she's going to shut down their systems and stuff. And then, there's lightning, and I was like, that's a cool effect. And then the guy's eyes started to roll back in his head. I'm like, okay, I was like, oh crap, he's dying. And then explosions went off and the whole ship blew up and she killed like, I don't know, 24 people. And I was like, holy crap, she blew them to death. Like, they are dead. And it just surprised me. I was like, all right, she's going to like fry their system and they'll be stranded for a while. They'll lose a ton of valuable data. It'll be a bit of a hit to the Empire. I didn't think that that was going to happen. And it like fried their systems. That guy was like being actually electrocuted. Like I said, it seriously looked like his eyes rolled in the back of his head. And then the ship exploded. I was like, holy crap, she killed all those people just now. And I was like, I wasn't expecting it. I thought like, oh, short circuit. And it was like, nope, just dead. Like, that was just a little room. And then the middle of the ship exploded from the outside and the whole thing went to just nothingness. And I was like, everybody just died. That was a full-on death sequence. Everybody in that ship is dead now. So I was like, I just didn't expect it to get that final for, her plan of action to send it back. But she was pissed, and they all died. So I was like, that kind of makes Hera a little scary now if we see her angry again. Like, killed everybody last time. We'll see what happens next. So that was the first thing. And then they're all cheering. It's like, sweet, we got Chopper back. We killed all those guys. Let's celebrate AP5 because he's the reason we got out of the hatch to get to this point. And it's like, yeah. And it's like, oh crap, where is he? And we see him floating off in space. And I love that sequence. So after like the crazy surprise, just mega explosion of death, we get this sequence of AP5 just floating in space. And he's just floating across the screen and it's nothing. And then he's like, I should be frightened, but I'm not. And he's like, I don't even really feel alone. I feel like this is good. And the little cute little floating pink things start coming in and he's caressing one and stuff, which is weird because with him being a robot he doesn't have like a sense of touch, and I feel like that's why those scenes are important, where it's like, oh, that's so beautiful, and you feel this smooth thing fly past you and it's like, it's amazing. But he's just a robot. He's just like, okay, something's on me. And it was just interesting in that moment thinking about that. But he's going through and it's like, I fit in perfectly. And then he starts singing because he's so happy that he's alone in space, and he's like, I see now, and he's like, I fit in perfectly, and he's like floating in the air and they're flying around him, making him float higher. And it was so funny. And then the light just comes and all the little basically they were space butterflies, and they leave off and the light comes in. He's like, no, like, go away. And then they just catch him and it's like, sweet, nice to have you back. And he was just pissed, and I thought that was such a funny sequence. So really loved that, just a robot starting to sing. And then it's like, come on, man, I was happy. Like, I was happy just literally floating in space. Like, he had infinite momentum until something stopped him with it, with it being space. So I love that. And it was just a nice, funny sequence. But it was a really good ending to the episode. Like I said, it was a filler episode for sure, but it was definitely a good one. It was probably my favorite one that focused on AP5. Like, the last one was with was AP5, Chopper, and Zeb when they were at the base fighting the really crazy one, which got really intense towards the end, and I did love that episode. But this one, I thought it was just so funny and lighthearted, and also that crazy moment with Mad Hera where she killed all those guys. But it was good, and in the beginning of it was really creepy because all those people, even though they were individuals, they felt like they were a hive mind. Like, they were just very calm and calculating. The plan was going great for them as well until like the very end. Like, it was kind of a typical last minute sort of save. And I like that just because of how the villains were kind of playing it. They weren't really involved. It was kind of a Grand Admiral Thrawn sort of thing where it was very cold and very calculated. And it's like, all right, we'll do this. This is working. We'll distract them here. We'll kind of, lower their confidence here, or we'll satiate their, ego here and stuff like that. And it was just smart. It was just very well played. And I love seeing that in villains. And, even if they're nameless villains, and they may have had names, but obviously doesn't matter now. But I like that. I thought that was a great way to start the episode, and it was also funny with, Chopper and AP5 always going against each other. But it was really good. Also, AP5 going in the bathroom after Wedge, really funny. But all around a good episode. It was a really good, it was a lighthearted filler, but at the same time, with the villains that they had, it was cold and calculating. Not as creepy as Thrawn, because he's kind of that dude where he's a little off kilter, where it's like that one, we still only had one segment where he actually lost it, and that's it. So we know he's just off kilter. He's not calm all the time. They seem like they're just actual robots, but they weren't. Or maybe they are. Like I said, I never looked it up. Always thought they were androids though. But really enjoyed this episode. Cannot wait. Finally got an actual preview for an episode, and it is it is the one that I've been waiting for. I did not know. I found this out a few days ago. I thought Darth Maul versus Obi-Wan was the actual season finale. So I don't know where the heck we're headed after next week's episode. But next week, which is only a half-hour episode, it's not an hour long. At least from what I read, it's just a normal half hour. But I'm expecting it to be pretty jam-packed if we're getting Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Maul. I don't want to see anything outside of this trailer that I've seen. I just want to go into next week's episode kind of blind, and just that sequence of Obi-Wan in his pose and Darth Maul just spinning his lightsaber, and that's pretty much it. So I'm super freaking excited for next week's episode. But of course, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this one. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I actually want to know what you guys thought about the villains for this episode. I thought it was unique to use those specific types of characters as villains, and the way they kind of were just in their own space the whole episode. I just thought it made it really entertaining. It was just a unique way to use that type of character, and like I said, for me personally, the sort of hive mind mentality that I felt they had, even though you could tell that they did and they were individual people, they just kind of felt like they had that sort of hive mind quality because they worked so perfectly together. It was almost like, yeah, I know what you're going to say to do before you actually tell me to do it, so I'm already doing it. And that's just how it felt going through the episode. They were so, smooth together that it just made it entertaining to me. So I would love to know how you guys felt about the villains for this episode. And of course, what you guys thought about the episode in general. So please comment below, let me know. And of course, thanks for watching.